Hi, how are you doing? What's up, my friends? My name is Gosha, and I am making this introduction to our new series. I'm very excited to share with you this series. It's going to be 4 videos, and it's going to be quite complex, quite advanced, metaphysical, but also technical topics related with stellar navigation, but not only. What this video will be about is about inserts that are done into the matrix. But how this conversation started actually was by me asking Athena why, if the Earth is a numerical matrix, why do they have to actually come down to Earth and see things with their own eyes or send drones if they can see everything, even smell everything from aboard, from their computers, matrix computers on board, because it was said that they have the access and they can see. So why do they have to come down, and why do they have to send drones? So here Athena is explaining that it's not exactly like in the movie Matrix, that everything is so digital and numerical. Well, it is numerical, but not so digital. That you have to watch the video to understand this. And she's explaining it's necessary to come down. And also Yaski here complements the topic, and then the conversation goes into the stellar navigation in general, how everything can be viewed, the whole reality, as the energetic, mathematical reality with energetic mathematical values, and how, viewing the reality this way, anything can be inserted into the matrix. It's how the whole navigation works on this foundation, and also it's how stuff, things, situations can be inserted into the matrix, into the reality, and the reality being altered this way. And she's also explaining that this technology doesn't only apply to Earth, because this technology matrix, everything is energetic mathematical matrix, even outside Earth. So anything can be imprinted and inserted into the reality. For example, that's how all these big Andromedan and Arcturian spaceships are made, because they create matter from energy, inserting into the matrix of things. So watch the video until the end. It's very interesting. It's also quite cute at the end. You'll see why. And then, just because maybe this video is not so easy to grasp at first glance, maybe it is, but if it's not, for those of you, well, I will try to help you get through it. I'll make a live after this video where I will talk about some main concepts which I captured and I will share with you general summary of this first video before continue to the video number 2. Okay, so that's the plan, that's the agenda. Enjoy the video, and I will see you in the next video, which is going to be live. Bye bye. Originally in Spanish, 21st of March 2022. I saw an interesting question from someone today, and here is mine related. If everything here is digital matrix, and you can see, hear, and even smell everything that happens on Earth, insert, remove, etc., you can even smell us, as Aneka once said, why is it necessary to physically go down to Earth or fly to see what happens there? You can't see it by looking at the digital matrix from the ship? Why all these Federation drones, etc.? It is not digital as in the Matrix, the movie. Not exactly. Although it is a new analogy in the sense that everything is mathematical, and therefore everything is specific frequencies.
You go down to see what goes on because we are just another level of the same digital game. So just as you have to take the car to go see a UFO, the ETs have to take a UFO to go see the car. Part of the same game. Rules to follow. Agreements. Like not passing walls in the video game. That's all. You go down because it's also Matrix here. So you are playing another level of the same game. And because what you see on computers doesn't always reflect what a person who is looking at the same thing would interpret. Like in this example. This is what the computer sees. But if someone went down to look at the chair, they would see it like this. A chair for the computer is not the same chair for a soul being with a connection to the source. Another example is this. The second image is how Barcelona is seen by a soul being with a connection to the source. The map is not the terrain. The computer sees the map. The being sees the terrain. While in many cases, what the computer sees is enough. In others, there is nothing like having eyes and boots on the ground. But the computer can also read smells and hear conversations, can't it? Or is that done with drones? And it is done with drones, but it doesn't replace someone real. Another reason is that it's for the very experience of going down as ETs, because Earth not only provides experience for the Earthlings, but also for the ETs that are nearby. Because the ETs here are part of the same game of being alive. It's just another level. Tina, Athena, sometimes feels cooped up here because she lives free. She needs to get down and fly an aerodynamic plane that is supported by air pressure differential in the wings, having a UFO with anti-gravity technology. Why? Because that's flying with wings, not with anti-gravity. It is a different experience to be able to feel the air currents, the pockets of different temperatures, to see the particles of water running through the canopy when passing through clouds. For the experience of a being with the soul, that's why. Sometimes you don't need to have a logical reason, as many would expect, but simply because you want to go down, because you want to, because you want to feel that. What anti-gravity gives you as a security, it takes away in experience. It is not the same to control a ship with generators and gravity cancellers, safe and boring, than to control your flying device feeling the changes of direction caused by simple ailerons that you move with pedals below your feet. So it's not that you can see everything that happens on Earth on some holographic computers from the ship, like in some simulation. Because I understood something like that when Aneka said that you can smell us, and even insert buildings or remove them. I mean, Aneka was saying that you can see everything in holographic computers of the Matrix, or something like that. Everything that happens on Earth. That's why the question, why then come to Earth physically? Yes, we can, but not everything is seen. And this refers to any other planet, not only on Earth. Important. Because as far as the holographic matrix is concerned, everything that is the material world as such is the matrix. The same. You could just say it is in layers of types or sets of frequencies. So yes, I feel that it was not explained well, or the way in which it was explained, it is inferred more like it is all exactly like in the Matrix movie. Rather, it is either more complex, or it can be described as a mathematical universe where everything that exists, be it material or energetic, the same in the end, obeys an interaction and an influence with a mathematical order of formulas and calculable interactions. This is exactly why a spaceship uses and follows star maps by frequencies, and not only maps of positions as in a paper plane. Although here the 3D or Y, X, Z with volume is used, but only for small places. So a ship will use a mathematical map whose sets of values applied to a specific place obey patterns and formulas that can be calculated and predicted with the use of very powerful computers. So it can be described as an energy field by frequencies, being that the material is only illusory, and it is by the interpretation based on the experience of an observing consciousness that interprets the energetic mathematical field as material world. So it is a way of understanding the material world, whether of Earth or not, in a way based on its energy values and the constantly influencing energetic interactions with each other, completely ignoring the physical interpretation of a consciousness, turning stellar navigation into the navigation purely between energy fields and their frequency and power values that are represented with mathematical values. This is something I saw that was not well explained in stellar navigation. For a ship to travel from its point of departure to its point of arrival using hyperspace, it is not that it travels through anything, but it jumps from one surrounding frequency position, or the one that surrounds the ship, to another matrix of energy positions. Hence the term jump ship, used by Billy Mayer in the 70s. In the parentheses, however, by action of the consciousness of the crew members, there is a travel perception of moving through hyperspace, which also generates the experience or perception of ship internal time, SIT, which also infers as in sitting time waiting for the trip to end or while traveling. Another point that was not well explained is this, and for me it is very important. What a ship does is to take the energetic map stored in its quantum memory units in the form of perfect quartz crystals and embody the energetic mathematical values that would surround the ship if it were already at its destination, thereby emulating being there. And that then causes a compatibility of frequencies with the place of destination, an incompatibility of energetic mathematical frequencies with the place of origin. causing the jump from one place to another. Being that the ship is not traveling, and in itself it's not jumping from one place to another, but only dematerializes in one place and materializes in another, as self-manifesting. And the unsaid before that for me is critical. For a ship to emulate or copy the mathematical energetic values of the frequency star map stored in its memory, it is not necessary for it to emulate the entire reality of the point of arrival. Nor is it necessary that a ship emulates everything to complete perfection, but with sufficient reliability or closeness to that of the destination point. So a ship, when creating the hyperspace bubble with the mathematical energetic map of the destination point, will not have to emulate everything that can be found in the destination. Do not imagine emulating the entire solar system, nor the entire Earth, because you only need to emulate a small portion of space surrounding the ship at the destination point, just the large bubble outside the ship, as if you were at the destination. As an example, if you are in Berlin and want to go in your car using hyperspace to Helsinki, your car's computer does not have to energetically emulate all of Helsinki, but only the energetic mathematical matrix of the parking lot where you want to arrive on the street of Helsinki. However, the more the ship's computer manages to emulate the surroundings of the arrival point, the more accurately you will travel to the exact point. And that greater accuracy is not interpreted so much as the accuracy of the arrival point on the map, but of the exact time factors of when you will arrive. Now, back to the initial question. The energetic mathematical map is not a static map, like the paper map you keep in your glove compartment, but it is a map inside the computer itself that, as its name indicates, is energetic mathematical. That is to say that the computer can create a progression that causes a prediction about the frequency and energy movements of the point to be studied, or point of arrival, which will be interpreted as a temporal movement. So you can observe a point where you have a precision map such as the Earth, and you can instruct the spacecraft computer to interpret the data of the mathematical energy map and display it to you as objects and positions on a traditional XYZ map, with things and shapes that your mind interprets as a specific place with all its details in the material world. So in this way, for advanced civilizations with hyperspace capability, not warp, that is human and wrong, it is evident that there is no material world, and that everything is a mathematical dance that predicts movements and interactions and influences of energy. And the way to interpret energy mathematically is with the use of its frequency. So in the exact same way in which a ship emulates or self-manifests in the destination place. It can also impose or change a part of the same energetic mathematical map of the place. That is, it can alter the energy values by using a coded and controlled gravity beam that imprints those new values at a specific point of the energy map, also interpreted as XYZ, thereby inserting a new object into the energetic matrix of the destination location, in this case, the Earth.
Speaking of navigating, I also understood it that way, that the ship jumps, not that it moves. The ship does not move. It depends on the ship though, of course. The Susie does not move. The Teleka has to move, I think, to activate the engines.
Yes, it moves, but for other reasons. It does not need velocity to enter hyperspace. Rather, it is done by rules of approach and departure from a heavily inhabited place, such as a parking lot full of ships in orbit of any planet, where you must first exit to free interplanetary space, and then from there make the jump to hyperspace. But these are navigation rules, not technological impediments.
So with that technology, you can go anywhere, or are there any limitations such as going to higher or expanded planes?
If your engines can copy and emulate what is on your map, yes, and if you have the map. The limitation is due only to two factors. 1. Your stellar navigation map by mathematical energetic frequencies. 2. The capacity of your engines to emulate or copy the mathematical energetic instructions of the navigation computer. I understand, yes. So, you can insert things, but you can't see everything in detail, can you? Better to go down directly. You can, but as the system is not perfect, as I explained above, it still happens that what is on the map is not reflected in the terrain already boots down. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yes, I understand. And I imagine that it changes a lot every second because interactions between everything change. That would be another part of it. The fact that there is an energetic mathematical dynamics means that the energy values of a point are interrelated with the energy values of the surrounding places. Another thing is that even though these quantum holographic computers are very powerful, they still interpret things, the energy of the map, in their own way. And it differs from the interpretation that a person looking at a place with their two eyes would give. The mind goes where no ship can go. There is a limit, and that limit is partly technological, because you would need both engine precision and map precision capabilities. It's not about how much power output the engines have, as in pounds of thrust like a jet engine. It's not just power output thrust, but the precision with which an engine can pull or emulate or copy the exact frequencies and their mathematical dynamics between each other, of what the computer map dictates to it. That is, going back to the Matrix movie, the computer with its map sees everything as numbers and the relationship they have with each other. But one thing is for the computer to understand the data, and another thing entirely is for the engines of the same ship to be able to copy the data from the computer and translate that data onto outside the ship. So there is a clear mathematical relationship of progression of energetic values running all the time. This progression that can be interpreted with mathematical formulas is the result of the average of the field, and this movement is interpreted as time, or as the time and the speed with which it runs perceptually in a specific place. And that time is the result of the average energetic field, that in itself is the result of the average of perception of the spatial-temporal modulators, and those are the beings with consciousness and consciousnesses in general. Since it is an average per place, it becomes specific to that place and not to another, thus creating temporal slips, where time progresses slower or faster in relation or comparison to another point or place. And this not only happens with places like planets, but with people, with each specific consciousness. As I said above, they all add up to create a sum, an average. And this sum is the collective unconscious that Carl Gustav Jung talked about. And even separated, as everything is a dance of mathematical formulas that interpret movements of energies, their interactions, influences, everything is interconnected in a single field that creates what we understand as the universe. And further extending this same principle, integrates everything in the original source, where everything that happens, every factor, will affect the total energy field. That energy field is the ether.
That's what you do with your mind when you remember something, isn't it? You match your memories, frequencies to the event, frequencies you experienced, your mind as a ship.
What the ship system, holographic quantum computer plus high-precision plasma engines do is copy what a conscious creature's mind naturally does. This ship technology is based on the consciousness of living beings.
Let's say that it amplifies what the ship's consciousness desires.
Yes, because there is already so much technology with the system that you only have to remember and think of your destination place, and the ship will read your mind, and with that it will move to where you were thinking it, if and when you want it to, because it also reads that. The mathematical energetic progression of a place, that is, the sequence in which the numbers that interpret frequencies progress and influence each other, can be calculated to a certain degree, which is quite high, with the ship's computer. That is, this means that based on the available data, the computer can fill in the missing spaces by mathematical logic alone, and thus, to a certain extent, it can predict the immediate future. It can also calculate what is physically present in an unmapped location, just by the energetic numerical interaction of the field or space surrounding the unknown location. That is, if you know the space surrounding an unmapped place, just by observing the mathematical energetic dynamics of the entire place surrounding the unknown place, you can predict or understand what is inside the unmapped place. This is used all the time in navigation and space exploration, and is also used to understand and study suns and black holes, gravity wells, and what is inside. So you have an incomplete map in front of you. You don't know what is in that sector of space. You see nothing there. There is no map. It is terra incognita. And if you use this system with the computer, you can see that because of the energy flow around the point of terra incognita, there can only be certain kinds of things there. And depending on the case, it will also be how accurately you will know what is inside. For example, if there is not much change in the energy flux, you will know that inside that unmapped space there is nothing with high mass, like an asteroid or a planet.
Question from someone in the audience. How does the ship's computer gather frequency data of a new location where it is located?
That was already explained in Stellar Navigation 1, but I will repeat it. The way a computer, a ship, does it is by using an interferometer, which basically measures the passage of an electron between one point and another, and the manner or volume with which the electrons pass from one point to another by tunneling effect determines the amount of gravity there is at the point that the sensor stimulates. And from there, the computer translates the gravity reading into frequency factors that the computer can use to alter the output frequency of the engines. Given that the initial value, or base gravity, in the ether in hyperspace is known as a constant in the equation during the calculation. Although this constant is not perfect, it is stable enough to be used as a constant in spacecraft navigation systems. It is the most approximate value of the ether at rest when viewing or understanding the ether as a high-frequency fluid in which the spacecraft itself is immersed. On Earth, the smallest interferometer with similar capacity to the sensors of any spacecraft with hyperspace capacity measures kilometers long. It is in the form of a ring and is called particle accelerator or hadron collider. Fascinating, all that. Thank you. And going back to the inserts, interesting that you say that this then can also be done on other planets, since everything is material matrix. I just understood that here there is like another, more artificial layer that can even be manipulated from above, making inserts, etc. So this type of insertions, inserting buildings, can also be done on other planets? If so, is it done? And in what context? What for? Like, instead of building a house, you can design it in a computer and insert it in the mathematical energetic matrix of the place? That would save a lot of work.
And if not, why not?
Yes, you can. And you can do it on any other planet in the material world. However, the lower the density, the less detail, which makes it easier to insert things, objects, or situations on Earth, because it requires less precision and fewer calculations that would be needed in a very high-frequency place like Sindriel Aldebaran. Remembering that the higher the existential frequency, which is erroneously interpreted as density, 3D, 5D, 9D, the greater the complexity. Now, about situations. An object is a set of frequencies that are in standing wave mode. That is to say, the flux of energy that composes them is fed back by returning to itself, toroid, until an external force breaks the equilibrium. And a situation can be foreseen, predicted, or caused by manipulating the energy formulas that alter or are operating in a place. That is to say, that if you impose a change in the matrix or mathematical fabric that dominates and causes a place, you will change the mathematical energetic progression, causing an artificial imbalance that can be interpreted and experienced below by beings with consciousness as an alteration in the flow of events. That is, you change the energy values of a crossroads between two streets, causing a greater friction in the rotation components of the wheels of a car, turning and converting the kinetic energy, speed of the car, to heat or caloric energy, friction inside the engine and inside the braking systems, which causes a slowing of the car and greater resistance to advance, which will cause it to arrive at the crossroads between two streets only a second late, causing the situation in which the car no longer crashes into another, preventing the death of the driver and thus completely changing the story. And this was achieved just by changing the values of the energy friction, kinetic heat interaction of the location within the systems of a single car. In a very subtle way, impossible to detect, and all with a tractor beam at a distance, and from a ship parked above and in invisible mode. This is what Sand Clock is all about, as an elite time-altering group to which my mom belonged or belongs to. Thank you, wow. And on the topic of inserts, even if it is more difficult on other planets, is it done? Like, instead of building a house, you can design it in a computer and insert it in the mathematical energetic matrix of the place?
I think that's what replicators do, on a small scale. They transform energy into matter.
Yes, it is done, and the limit is technology. And this explains why or how some non-human races or cultures, like the Andromedan or the Arcturian, can make ships the size of the moon, or even bigger. They imprint matter from energy with this system exactly. Instead of working with your hands then? Yes. However, there is a tendency to go back to the simple in mentality. You no longer want to rely so much on computers and high technology, So you appreciate more building a house with your hands, cutting boards and putting them in place from a ladder. It is the satisfaction of the simple. Because even if this technology seems fantastic and convenient to you, it also causes strong ethical problems, which have to do with the manipulation of perception and the possible imposition of anything. But the limit is the technology itself, as you said, or are there also some ethical rules? There are ethical rules, yes, but sometimes people will not be able to know if something that happened was manipulated or happened naturally. So the very potential of manipulation creates rules that limit or restrict the use of these kinds of advanced technologies. Yes, that would open up a lot of ethical issues. And what rules are there in Taygeta concerning that?
Using that technology defines your collective unconscious and your modus vivendi in a holistic society. To use or abuse it seems absurd.
And how do you define abuse? It opens many questions. In automated factories, yes, it is used. However, its use is minimized. In Taygeta specifically, craftsmanship is predominant. But it is still used with things like manufacture of drain pipes or anything that is just needed, and it is better not to do it with hands. And yet, you still use more traditional devices like backhoes, bulldozers, or cranes. But what rules are there? Is there like a rule book? Or is it all already understood by everyone? Yes, there are rules set by the High Council, yes. However, they do not work like on Earth, because every citizen of Taygeta knows in detail why this technology should not be abused. And so, as this has functioned this way for a long time, for lack of better words, even though the rule exists, it is not taken as a law as it will be on Earth, because it is already part of the very agreements among the population and is as obvious as the agreement not to push each other in the street. But for example, what are those rules? There are many rules of coexistence, not to impose yourself on others in a way that affects you too, to take care of each other, knowing that we are all part of a whole, that we live together. There is not as much selfishness as there is on Earth, and not as much loud. It is the mentality itself that creates, by definition and as an automatic and inescapable consequence, the holistic society in which they live in Taygeta. Is inserting a gift for someone's mother at home instead of giving it in person the abuse? In Taygeta, although nice touch, that will look like sending a digital greeting card or a gift to your mom instead of giving her a card written and decorated by you, accompanied by an art craft gift. It can be done, but it declines in value. And in Taygeta, it would not even be seen that way, but almost as something of bad taste. Another thing is that, by their own decisions, not everyone has access to this technology. They are limited to tractor beam for private use or for farm construction uses, something that already comes with the ships of industrial use as a winch on a land jeep. It comes standard. This technology is so invasive that it brings ethical problems for the society that possesses it. It is so complete that, as it happens in many non-human civilizations, every everything ends up depending on that technology. Everything is done. They no longer have to bother with anything. So everything is easy, which brings a decrease in the quality of life. Everything is boring, sordid, sterile. Nothing is necessary. Everything is taken care of. Everything is given, and everything is done. You have it all. That ends up being so sad that it can wipe out an entire civilization. And it has wiped out entire civilizations. And then they wonder why the starseeds come to Earth. Yes, for an adventure of something opposite. High technology does not bring happiness. Just use it where it is needed. To give you time in life to express yourself as a soul with the artistic. What matters is the experience of life, not having it all. And this is where again the importance of consciousness, the level of understanding of the people, their perception and their values come in. And why in Taygeta, among other places, one returns to the simple. To marvel at the handmade creations, at the manual, at the old looms, at the art. And with it comes the admiration for the human race, because they achieve so much with so few resources, with so few things, with so little technology, and with so little time in life.